This is a Muscle Cat Media production. Expats, expots, whatever you want to call it, Rolsey is in the midst of 4th of July celebrations in New York. His wife, who's Irish, got to live her dream of seeing the Statue of Liberty today, which is a crazy dream, but to each their own. I mean, if I said my dream was to, watch the Buffalo Bills in Buffalo at a bar in February, people might call that dream crazy too, Spoon. So it's just you and I today, as Rolsey and Claire are living there. They're going to the Mets Yankees today. Like that's a good holiday. That's an excuse.
Yeah, I love it. And you've always got yourself a keeper if there's a female in your life who will put up with your sports obsession. I've a little bit of experience with that, and it doesn't work out as well if they are avidly against it. I can live with passive disinterest, but being all aboard, and especially combining travel with sport is one of the coolest things you can do.
I'm so grateful that my partner, I'm a diehard Bills fan, baseball fan, but football's a bit different because it's once a week in Australia with the time difference, whereas baseball's every day, right? I'm not waking up at 2:30 in the morning to watch the Toronto Blue Jays play a 1.5 afternoon game, unless it's the playoffs. It's just not happening. But the Buffalo Bills, when they're playing at 1 p.m., that's 2:30 a.m. in September here, or 3:30 a.m. when the time changes. I wake up at 2:30 to watch it. I go to bed earlier for that. And I'm so thankful that my partner's the coolest in the way that's just it's Sunday night, it's 8 p.m. Bills are on at 2:30. So sorry, I'm going to bed. This is important to me.
I know you do that because we're in a fantasy football league together, and the group chat at 3 a.m. will kind of vibrate. And I know it's only you that's crazy enough to do it, right? Then you kind of get to watch everyone's morning routines throughout a Monday as Alex wakes up at 5 and Tom wakes up at 5:30, and we've been up for 4 hours at that point.
Who's getting up for the fourth? Because that's what I do as well. If the Bills aren't playing at that time, and let's say the games start at 3:30 a.m., I'm up at 5:30 in the morning just for the fourth quarter and the witching hour on Red Zone. But that's the insight of what you have to do when you're a North American sports fan abroad.
Yeah, big time.
All right, Spoon. Weekend Pickoff. We're gonna get to some picks at the end here, but I think I kind of wanted to find some value bets. We've just passed the midway point of the MLB season, and I don't know if you want to even call them value bets. This doesn't even need to be a gambling segment, but I think the way we can look at this is I want to look at some dark horses, as in not the odds-on favorite for major awards in the AL and the NL. So there's 3 major awards: MVP, the most valuable player, Cy Young, best pitcher, and Rookie of the Year for, you guessed it, best rookie. Although best rookie might be loose this year. It might be not the worst rookie is the award for that. But there's odds-on favorites. Some are really short. So what I thought we'd do today is go through each of the awards, tell you who the odds-on favorite is, and let's find a good old roughie, a dark horse that could maybe win the MVP, but the bookmakers are saying it might be over, but we're saying maybe not. So did you want to run through those?
Yeah, definitely. My eyes have just popped again looking at how the National League Rookie of the Year market's changed. So we'll dive into that when we get to that part. But yeah, kick us off.
I think there's value. If you're going to win a bet, this is where the rookie bet is where you're going to win it, because you'll see it here. We're going to start talking AL and NL MVP. And let's not talk about it from a betting perspective, because I don't think you can even put a play on anything here because the odds are so short. But let's take a look at some dark horses. So let's start in the AL. Aaron Judge is paying $1.10 to win the MVP, and there's still half the season left. The third shortest odds at my last check was around the 70s. The third shortest odds. That is ludicrous. I've never seen anything so short before. This was me looking at the ESPN sports book, just kind of the ones that are communicated most on broadcasts and stuff like that. My first question to you before we talk about the roughies, what needs to happen for Aaron Judge to not win the MVP this year?
Well, I mean, if he stopped now, like we kind of had a brief discussion on this. I think if he stops now, he's in trouble. If he plays all of July, he's home. He's at 6 point something WAR already, and historically, you kind of win the MVP with that 6 to 7 WAR range, which is a brilliant season. Looking at some of the guys behind him, they're kind of in the threes right now. So if they match their production in the first half, they kind of get to where Judge is right now. The exception to that is, does Cal Raleigh break the all-time home run in a season record? Because little bits of history can always feed into the narrative a bit, but you would still need Judge to miss 40 to 50 games, I think, for him to not win. I genuinely think if you can find $1.10, that's double bank interest.
Yeah, Aaron Judge is putting together a ridiculous season. He's hitting over 360. He's got an OPS of over 1,200. He's hit 31 home runs. He's got a WAR of over 6. I'm not sure that's like some players will not be able to catch that are MVP candidates in the top 5, will not even eclipse that WAR this season from what Aaron Judge has already accumulated this year. Am I off on that when it comes to Aaron Judge? Like, I actually don't know if anyone can catch him. I'm going to name a player who might be value, but there would have to be some conditions on it. Am I often saying that some people might not even, like legit MVP candidates may not be able to catch Aaron Judge in WAR?
I think you're right. I mean, who's second in WAR right now? I'm just going to have a look. So Judge is on 6.3. Cal Raleigh's on 4.6. So he'll get close, I think. Pena is on the IL indefinitely. My Hunter Brown, and then you've got a lot of pitchers here. Pitching WAR is obviously calculated a little bit differently. Bobby Witt's around the mark, but team record's probably going to be a problem. So I'm with you. Hard to beat.
I think the only value that I would look at as a roughie is if the Kansas City Royals make a back half charge, they get into the playoffs, which is possible. I mean, like it's sort of a gettable number still. I mean, they're a few below, but they would need to go on a nice run. So you have a storyline of leading a team from the abyss into the playoffs. Aaron Judge would have to get hurt and not play, and Rowley could not break the record. That's the only way I can see Bobby Witt winning the MVP, and he's one of the shortest odds at 101-1 on Sportsbet. So that's my roughie. I don't know if you even bothered with picking a roughie.
I think the different angle you could take on it, and it's been so long since it's happened. I think if it's not Judge, it's got to be a pitcher. And again, like you said, the consideration for that would be Judge stops playing at some point, plays, it'd have to be under 120 games, I think, for him to not win, because his body of work in, 3/4 of a season will surpass almost anyone else's.
It's incredible.
And like you said as well, Raleigh not breaking the record would be required. I think Tyreek Skubal could definitely give it a nudge. Looking at his season starts, he's got 138 strikeouts in 17 starts. Like a 250-ish strikeout season with a sub-2 ERA. He's walked what's he walked this year? He's walked 14 hitters in 17 starts. Like there's some generational kind of stuff happening right now. He's got a 10 strikeout to walk rate. That's unheard of. I think if you were going to see any kind of upset there, it could be a pitcher, and a couple of dollars on Skubal at 81s might not be the worst way to go. But that said, if I was trying to make a couple of dollars, I'd put $20 on Aaron Judge at $1.10.
Yeah, I completely agree. Shohei Ohtani's also paying a very short odds as well to win in the NL, and he's also kind of a storyline guy. He's at $1.04. He's shorter odds right now than Aaron Judge, but his competition is shorter. So Soto's at 26, Tucker's at 26, Crow Armstrong at 26, James Wood, baby, from your Nats, 41s. Shohei's shorter than Judge, which is crazy to me, but I guess the Cal Raleigh record setting also kind of, there's him and there's everybody else. There's such a separation. Is Ohtani, who's the best bet outside of Ohtani to win the MVP? I actually think there's more of a pathway to an NL MVP that's not Ohtani than there is Judge in the AL.
I'm with you 100%. I couldn't have Ohtani shorter than Judge right now. Even if you the whole basis of this discussion is someone gets injured, I think I'm more suspicious of the guy who's trying to ramp up to being a two-way player coming off a Tommy John surgery getting injured than a guy who's being intentionally walked 1 and 2 times because they don't trust him to swing the bat because he's going to hit it 500 feet in Judge. So, like, I don't see any risk of injury. Well, a greater risk of injury for Judge than I do for Ohtani, and I couldn't have Ohtani at $1.04. It is interesting looking at this pricing. I mean, you've got, so what, right now, using Sportsbet as our guide, Scooble's third favorite in the AL at 81s, and you've got like 15 guys, maybe 10 to 15 guys shorter than 81 in the National League. So it's a real different sort of pricing market. I think what it is leaving room for there is if Ohtani does go out, you remove him from the market, all of these guys would be about $4.50, $5. Like you've got a genuine 5 or 6 horse race, right? Whereas you look at if Judge goes down tomorrow, Raleigh's $1.20.
So Ohtani, though, like could he get hurt? Absolutely. He's coming back from a major like elbow surgery, and he's a very physical player. Like if Ohtani gets hurt, I don't think he's winning the MVP. Like if Judge gets hurt, he could still win. So if Ohtani gets hurt, then the only problem is the competition isn't that strong. Like Soto, Tucker, Armstrong, and Wood are your next 4, and no one's really having an MVP season. Like they're having good seasons, but they're not great. That's why my value pick is actually Ronald Acuna Jr., because since he's come back, he has been unbelievable. Like MVP numbers. I think if he started the year, he would be the second short odd favorite for the MVP with the kind of numbers that he's putting up right now. Now, Atlanta are out of the playoff spot, but what happens if Acuna keeps producing at this level, which he's done for before, and Atlanta surge into a wild card spot, which could happen? They get super hot, make the playoffs. If Atlanta make the playoffs and Ronnie will keep producing, then all of a sudden grabbing Ronnie at 46s right now might be a little bit of value. Obviously, you're not putting a lot on it, but like I think he's the only other player that actually has MVP-esque numbers. He's hitting 344. He's got 9 homers. He's got 18 RBIs. He's got 45 hits since his return. He's got a WAR of 2, and he's only played in 36 games so far. So like it's a pretty impressive return from Ronald Acuna, and I think there's some value there.
Yeah, it's a tricky one. I was just looking the other day at the Braves, right? So they're now 8 games under 500. But what's really concerning, and I missed this when it happened, but Chris Sale's on the 60-day IL, broken rib cage. They said they expect he might return this season, which is not what you want to hear. Smith Shawver was having a great season. He's at Tommy John. He's out for the year. And then yesterday, Spencer Schwellenbach, who I can now pronounce without a single hiccup, has been pitching with a fractured right elbow, and they hadn't realized. Like, this is just looking more and more to me like a potential shutdown season for the Braves. And I think you probably have a little bit of risk there where that award could still come good. And my preseason March prediction comes all right, is that they trade him to another National League team and then he goes on that tear and contributes. So yeah, it's a tricky one. I do feel bad for Braves fans because they're kind of probably in a similar spot to the D-backs are, but they're 8 games under 500 instead of 1. So what would need to happen for that second half, crusade is even more probably challenging. But they do have the guy for the job in Ronnie. Before I give you mine, National League WAR leaders in using B-WAR, who do you think is on top?
I would have said Ohtani.
Ohtani's 5th.
What? And he's that short odds favorite?
Yeah, so he's 5th with 4, and the disclaimer there is that there's 2 pitchers above him in Skeens and Wheeler who will not be winning this award because so much has to happen for a pitcher to win it. Tucker's in 4th place with 4.2. No, Soto's not in the top 10.
And he's one of the shortest favorites. That's crazy. So Pete Crow Armstrong.
He's on top with 4.8 WAR, man. So
he's your value bet. I actually wrote him down as a chance, but he's kind of the third odd short or second short favorite, right?
Yeah, I think where it gets a little tricky sometimes is when you've got 2 really good guys from one team. Not that it's like the Brownlow necessarily in the AFL, but it also kind of like how valuable were you on a team of superstars? And I guess you could make the same argument for Ohtani there as well because they've got the Avengers out west. But I think some of PCA's shines may be getting taken away a little bit from what Tucker's doing and vice versa, because they're the Cubs and still a very big team and huge market. But you look at that as like a collective superstar outfield rather than breaking it down into one player. I mean, you look at the numbers, Matt, 4.8 WAR, like that's 20% more than Ohtani has right now. I think what is being priced into that Ohtani market a little bit is that he's going to be starting games soon and actually going he's a little bit ahead of schedule and his timetable. They're still using him in that opener role, but once he's going out and starting 4 or 5 games, striking out 7, 8, 9 a night,
he's winning.
It's over. But that's pricing it in as if it's 100% going to happen, and I wouldn't be taking $1.04 about that. No chance. Imagine if we were looking at this as Aaron Judge is 5th on the WAR leaderboard, and right now you can get whoever, Cal Raleigh, at the same price of $26 because he's sitting on top. I think that's probably the way I would play his PCA. And he does it all. He's a true 5-tool player in a team that looks strong to win their division.
So in the MVP, the wrap up here is it's almost a foregone conclusion. Like Judge is going to win the MVP in the AL. Ohtani's going to win it in the NL if it all goes according, even if they're just okay the rest of the year. However, we kind of feel like Judge might even win it if he gets hurt. But Ohtani, if he gets hurt or he struggles coming back from injury in the full-time starter, opens the door for a possibility. And you think Pete Crow Armstrong is a good chance he's around that 12 mark on most markets. And I think if Ronnie gets traded or the Braves go on a surge, he's be some sneaky value. I don't really see anybody else having that narrative because it's so much of a narrative award too. So that's what I like to look at when I'm picking these awards is what's the story? What's the narrative behind it? Ohtani and Judge just have too much of a narrative going their way, but I don't mind the discussion. I am keen though to jump to the next one, which has prompted this discussion from our debate last night, is the AL Cy Young. Now, Tarik Skubal is the favorite. What is he saying on Sportsbet? I saw him at $1.50 last.
$1.33 currently on Sportsbet.
Okay, on Sportsbet, $1.33. He is having an unbelievable year. You ripped off some of his strikeout stats earlier this year. My dark horse, though, is what's on Sportsbet? What's Jacob deGrom paying?
He's into $10 now at 4th favorite.
So the reason I like deGrom is because of narrative. He's 37 years old. He's been through the trenches when it comes to injuries. He keeps coming back, and he's still dominating. So DeGrom is 9-2 with a 2.13 ERA. He's got 100 strikeouts and a little over 100 innings. His WHIP is 0.88. He's got a lower ERA than Skubal. Granted, it's 2.13 versus 2.15. He's got a lower batter's average against at 191. And his WHIP is at 0.89, which isn't too far off at Skubal, who is 0.83. Now, if he's in the NL, I think that DeGrom wins. I think he outduels Skeens, who's, as we'll get to, he's the odds-on favorite there. I think that there's so many good pitchers in the AL that this one's a tough one to pick. Skubal is having an unbelievable year, and obviously, if you put a gun to my head and said who's winning the AL Cy Young, I'm going to say Skubal. That's not the point of this conversation. I'm trying to find some value. I think DeGrom has the season and the narrative that if he keeps this up, he's going to be a lot shorter as this season goes on.
Yeah, I guess the question mark is, does he get the innings, right? So far, yes, absolutely. He's right there, and they're giving him his chance. I mean, they let him go out there the other day. I think it was 2 starts back. He had a no-hitter going into the 8th. And there were no signs of a team going we're paranoid about you injuring yourself. You're not even getting a chance at this. They gave him the chance. He gave up a hit. Then they pulled him. I think you definitely want to see the Rangers sort of stay competitive and fighting for that wild card spot, right? Because if all of a sudden they drop out of playoff contention, he doesn't make his last 3 or 4 starts, and he starts 28 games instead of 32, that's a massive problem. But if they're competitive and he's the ace of that staff, then I think you can make a case as you have.
Who are you going for value?
I'm a little bit biased.
You said one guy the whole year, though.
Yeah, I mean, I've got I think my longest ticket on Hunter Brown is 21s or 23s, and I've backed him pretty much all the way into 7s. He got as short as, and he's about 750 now. I've got so much exposure to Hunter Brown that, even if he can just continue and have a really good season and pick up that 200 strikeouts at $5, that was one of the preseason picks, I'll be really happy with that. That'll cover all of my other bets and then some. What I like about Hunter Brown is that he's not getting any longer, right? If you go back 3 or 4 weeks, Max Fried was 2nd or 3rd favorite. He's now out to 19s. Framber Valdez is out to 41s. This kind of award is such a survival kind of marathon, right? And we spoke about a couple of bad starts, all of a sudden you're on the ropes. It's how long can you go without these balloon starts that just blow your numbers out. Hunter Brown stayed in this fight the whole way. It's not like he's stormed in like DeGrom has. He's just kind of been consistently doing it. And, comparing numbers as you just did, he's got a 1.82 ERA. It's lower than DeGrom's or Scooble's. He's got more WAR than both of them. He's got a whip that's sort of right in line. I mean, Scooble's is unreal because he doesn't walk anyone. Tariq's got
that's
130
what's amazing.
strikeouts. Yeah, I mean, you'd almost want to see, that's where he's actually doing something historic, is that really low walk rate. Like, if the command slips a little bit there, then all of a sudden you go, whoa, well, we can compare ERAs and these guys have a little edge, or we can compare WAR and these guys have an edge. But while that whip is 0.83 because he's not walking anyone, I saw the craziest stat yesterday about Tariq Skubal. 40% of hitters he has in a 3-0 count strike out.
Oh my God. How's that possible?
Unbelievable. Like,
how's that possible?
To not only get back in the count, like you miss one pitch, all of a sudden, you're walking him, and he doesn't do that. He does that less than one time per outing. But he gets back all the way to the time where he can actually punch them out like that. And then 20% of those guys walk, which would be, all of the 14 walks I assume he's given up, and the other 40% are put in play to some extent. So, yeah.
So Skubal is $1.33. It's a 5-horse race, and you got Garrett, Hunter, Jacob, and Max, who are kind of the contenders. So, I mean, you're going to need Skubal to fall off. You're going to need to have 2 bad starts. It's a survival thing. If Skubal goes back-to-back games where he allows 5 runs in 5 innings, then all of a sudden he might be out of the race. Like, that's how fine the margin's on. But then, like DeGrom, Brown, they're all going to have to not slip up. So it'll be an interesting one to watch. I get that you're going Brown at 750. You would have had value before. And if you listen to the pod, you're probably on Brown now. I think DeGrom at 10s has some value. But again, they're also short odds that, like, you're not saying, like, there's no sure thing here. Like, there's no confidence in saying any of these.
You'd want to back a couple and then be rooting against Skubal, I think, is the way. And just looking at it now, I mean, I know I said he's dropped off. I can't have Max Fried at 19s. Like, he's still having a phenomenal season. He's made 1 extra start than Skubal, but he's pitched 5 more innings. Sure, the strikeout numbers aren't there, but their ERA is identical. And he's still got a sub-1 whip, and he plays for the Yankees, who get more media attention and, could be division winners. So if I had to pick someone on value that wasn't your DeGrom pick and my Hunter Brown pick that I've sort of been preaching for 4 months now, I'd probably say Fried is now out to a price.
Max Fried
at 19.
Yeah. In the NL, it's a 2-horse race, according to the bookmakers. Paul Skeens, $1.72, Zach Wheeler, $2.50. Justified completely. Like, those are the first 2 guys you think of. So I've got to look outside of that for some value. And again, I'm going for some narrative. Now, just outside that next bracket at 14s is Logan Webb and Christopher Sanchez. And then the next bracket is where I'm looking, which is crazy names in here. Mackenzie Gore, Rangers Suarez, Yamamoto, and Andrew Abbott just sneaking in there at 46s. I think where I'm looking for value is Yamamoto. I couldn't believe that he was at 41s. Now, do I think he's a front runner favorite? No, but he's 3rd in the NL in ERA at 2.34. He's 3rd with whip, and he's 3rd in batters average against. So he would also play into this big Japanese name, big Japanese market. Skeens is at 203 and 093, and he's the front runner right now. Like, Yamamoto's not that far off, and he seems to just be getting more and more comfortable with every start. Like, it's not inconceivable that we sit here at the end of August and we go see a graphic pop up on ESPN that's like Yamamoto in August, 4-0, 31 innings, 38 strikeouts, 2 earned runs. Like, he is showing that he has shown in Japan that he can go on an absolute heater of ridiculous numbers, and he keeps getting better here. So I'm looking at that Japanese narrative plus the fact that he's legit nasty. At 41s, I see some value there to just put a flyer on.
Yeah, I think Yamamoto, he's been hurt a little bit by something that's not his fault, and that is that every single other Dodgers pitcher has gone down this year from the starting rotation. And because of that, they've actually been extra careful with how they've played him. And because of that, he's made the same number of starts as Zach Wheeler, and he's pitched 11 less innings. So that's part of his problem, is he's short on innings right now. if the Dodgers are able to get some of these guys back, and Ohtani, stretching out and being able to sort of actually contribute as a starter will help there. Because it's not for pitch count. If you look at like his pitch counts, he's consistently in the 90s. He's gone as high as 110. He's gone over 100 5 or 6 times. There's a path where in the second half of the season he's pitching 6 or 7 innings, consistently rather than a couple of these 5-inning outings, and he maybe makes a little bit of ground on Wheeler and Skeens in the innings pitched department, because that's the only reason I can see that he is priced that way, because the rest of the peripherals, as you said, are right in line.
The problem is he just has he goes rolling and then he just allows 5 runs in 5 innings or 5 runs in 3. So he will have to not have one of those quote unquote blow up games. He's had 2 of them this year. One versus the Diamondbacks, one versus the Giants. He's going to have to pitch like he did, yesterday or 2 days ago, whenever it was, against the White Sox, when he went 7 innings with 1 earned run off 3 hits and 8 strikeouts with 1 walk, right? He's got to be able to do it. But that's why he's priced at 41s. So that's why he's not a favorite. Again, gun to my head, I'm not saying he's winning it. I just think there's a pathway there. What about you?
Yeah, and I mean, that's the key. Like you said, he's walked 32 guys, right? So compare that to Tari Skubal's 14. That's why all of a sudden he's probably 1 inning short per start of where he could be, because he's walking a couple of extra guys. But that's not like a 30 or 40% adjustment. That's like a 10% adjustment. So I'm with you that 41 looks like a pretty nice way to play. I'm going to preface this and say that I'm just kicking myself because I looked over the weekend and couldn't believe that Zach Wheeler was $4.50 and Skeens was $1.30 or something like that. And I did this comparison. I looked at the stats and I didn't jump on Wheeler in time. I wanted to give them both one more start. Skeens, he was fine against the Cardinals. They had so many chances to score and didn't. But he only went 5 innings in that start. And Zach Wheeler went 8 against the Padres with 10 strikeouts or something like that. Dominated against a really good team. And look what's happened to the market. It's, they're very close, $1.72 to $2.50. So I'm not going to make Wheeler my pick because that's not really in the spirit of this conversation. But
$2.50 though still is over double your money for a guy that should be shorter odds.
He should 100% be favorite for mine. So I still think $2.50 is a bet I'm going to take because he's got 21 more strikeouts than Paul Skeens this year. Everyone's talking about Skeens and how he's got this crazy strikeout. He's got better whip. He's got better strikeouts. He's had more innings. And the Skeens is on, I don't believe in pitcher wins, as you know, but he's on a Pirates team that cannot win. Whereas Zach Wheeler's 8-3. $2.50, I still think is the best bet you can take right now in any baseball market. And if it's $2.50 sports bet, you can probably go and find $2.80 somewhere else if you're sort of a savvy shopper. But for the sake of this discussion, let's put that aside. We touched on before how well James Wood is going. I'm going to touch on another guy from that team, the Nationals. I was sort of singing their praises preseason. Hasn't quite come together the way I would have hoped, but it's not for lack of star power from the young guys, right? Wood's been unbelievable. He was named an All-Star, and I think he was named. Well, he will become an All-Star. He wasn't a starter because of fan voting. CJ Abrams would be pretty unlucky to miss out. He's been unreal too. Pitching-wise, Mackenzie Gore, man, he has been superb. Again, he's got the Skeens issue with the win-loss and smaller market team. No one's sort of paying attention to a team that far below 500. You look at his numbers this year, he's pitching to a 3.11 ERA, and I think there's been a couple of those blowout starts that you were talking about, similar to Yamamoto, but maybe he's got one more. He's got 131 strikeouts. So those are Wheeler numbers. That's 15 or 16 more than Skeens has had in the same number of starts. The whip hurts him a little bit. He has some sort of walk problems. But, where I think there might be a little bit of value in this is it wouldn't be crazy, and the Nationals do this, it wouldn't be crazy that someone goes knocking for Mackenzie Gore and they offer up a haul of 3 or 4 top prospects to go and get this guy. And then he's traded to the Dodgers, and then he has a dominant back half of the season. I've got my Nationals 72 win bet kind of riding on the fact that the Nationals don't sell at the deadline. But this is a team that's got form doing this, right? They know we can't afford to re-sign you, or we won't re-sign you, so we're going to retool, we're going to cash in. I think Gore's got another year on his deal, so maybe this isn't the year where that would happen. But, there's a world where they trade him to a Cubs or, a Phillies or the Dodgers, the Padres, whoever, everyone needs pitching help right now. He continues to do what he's doing, maybe does it a little bit better with some, better bullpen help behind him, which always helps your ERA. I mean, that's part of it. Like, I've seen Gore get pulled a couple of times this year with base runners on. The guy who comes in behind him lets those runners score. Let's see what that looks like when you've got like the Cubs and their bullpen right behind you, or the Giants even. So yeah, like yours, and like a lot has to kind of go right here, and it's a bit of a long shot play. If I had to make a case, I could say Mackenzie Gore at 41s, because if he got traded tomorrow to one of those competing teams I just named, he'd probably half his price overnight.
Let's go to AL rookie next. Now, Jacob Wilson is the favorite in this discussion, and he should be, because he's hitting, I don't know, do you have his stats handy? He's hitting over 300. He's let me see if I can find his stats for
I had
you
him
too.
up just before. I got him now.
Like, he's gonna win. It kind of feels like. I was actually surprised that
he's
Cam Smith.
340.
Well, Cam Smith isn't too far behind. He's hitting 291 with 7 homers and 38 RBIs. So those are kind of the two front runners, and they definitely deserve to be the two front runners. Is there anyone else that has a chance? Nick Kurtz is on the list. Roman Anthony hasn't been in it that long. Jason Dominguez at 36 has kind of jumped off. Who did you look at for a AL rookie?
I thought this was the worst market I've ever seen, to be honest. It was like trying to do the form for a race in Toowoomba or something like that on a Monday afternoon. They're all sort of maidens for a reason, and they're all priced sort of appropriately. I think if for some reason it isn't one of those two guys, and I'm with you on Cam Smith being great value, because, well, I mean, he's got 0.3 more WAR than Wilson right now, but I think what's more important
280.
than that, yeah, but he plays for a better team, but he also plays in a fairer ballpark, right? Because there's been a lot of chat about how this Sacramento team, like it's like hitting 40 home runs at Coors Field. Could you do it anywhere else? There's been a bit of chat about inflated sort of offensive stats, and I don't know how much that'll play into where Jacob Wilson's at. It helps that he's playing a plus position defensively in shortstop. But when I looked at the breakdown of his numbers, I don't think it was defensive WAR that was kind of, he's got negative defensive WAR. So they're purely leaning on his attacking.
And he could get cold, man. Like, he's a rookie. He could get cold. Like, we're talking about, we're going to need Shohei Ohtani to get cold or hurt to not win the MVP. Shohei Ohtani doesn't get cold, right? Like, that is what he does. Like, we're talking about a rookie here who's never played a full season of MLB baseball before. These guys can falter.
Yeah, and I mean, the Astros are, like we've talked about a couple of times, they're somehow just going to win another AL West every year we declare them dead. So there's all the incentive in the world to keep playing guys that are contributing. We've seen time and time again, the Athletics, when they start to get too good, good players go missing, right? Like, who's to say all of a sudden Jacob Wilson isn't just getting sat like down the stretch in September because they're trying to improve their draft pick position? So yeah, I mean, I can't make a case or even half make a case for anyone else here. But I think Cam Smith at $2.80, I would have had them both at $2.20, which means $2.80 is the value in a sense. 280 is a bang on. I'm just going to lock that in as my value pick. If you want a real outsider, like you're at Toowoomba and you're just picking a random dog that's way out there, Jock Caglione, I don't mind at 91s. He's not off to a great start. He's hitting like 214, but just the way we've seen him in college before, and the way his power has surged in the minor leagues, I could see a world where he has a ridiculous August where he hits like 11 home runs in a 6-week stretch, and all of a sudden you're just like, oh my God, who's this Jock Caglione guy? Like, I think he at 91s, if you're looking real outside, is where I'd be like, I'll put $1 on him and hope I win $91 because he got hot. But if I'm making a serious bet, I'm betting on Cam Smith. What's interesting, you look at Carlos Narvaez, right, catching for the Red Sox. He has, first of all, he's what, 20 somethings? Is he?
Yeah, he's 30s. They're in the 30s.
Yeah, so he's 36s. So Jacob Wilson has 2.1 WAR. Cam Smith has 2.4 WAR. Carlos Narvaez has 2.6 WAR. He's playing the hardest position that there is to play as a rookie in catcher. It takes them so much longer because they're not just hitting, they're not just fielding, they're calling a game.
And catching some of one of the best pitchers in the league.
Yeah, 100%. And he's got a better OPS plus than Cam Smith. now that I'm looking at it like that,
yeah.
Carlos Narvaez at 36, he's got more WAR than the two guys who are, super short in the market.
How's Roman Anthony shorter than him?
Catchers get no love, and they're not sexy names, right? Like, they're not making 5-star catchers in the outfield, robbing home runs or anything like that. Nick Kurtz has 0.5 WAR, and they've got him there at third favorite at $5. Like, no. I take back everything I just said. Carlos Narvaez.
I'm going, but he's the value. I'm going to jump on that. Like, I'm legit jumping on that. That's crazy value for a guy that could just keep being consistent at catching while other guys burn around him.
He's also hitting 277. Like,
that's good.
It's not like all his WAR is coming from pitch framing or anything like that. Like, he's hitting 8 points off Cam Smith, and we're talking about his offensive numbers.
All right,
and
let's quickly, just conscious of time, let's move on to Rookie of the Year in the NL, man. Like, this one is open season. Who wants to win Rookie of the Year in the NL? Right now, the favorite is Drake Baldwin at 240s. But, like, this is where you can just put a couple bucks on some long odds dudes and hope they get hot for 2 weeks, because that's all it might need to win this one.
Yeah, I'm annoyed because I've had a few discussions on this and with Rolsey as well. I'm actually going to go back through our group chat and find some of the screenshots, because I reckon I've got like time lapse of this market over the last 2 or 3 months. And these guys who are short right now just weren't even there before. Like, this market has changed so many times. There would be a smarter punter than me out there in Vegas somewhere who is sitting on like 10 different tickets of these guys at 30-1. And knowing that one of them has to win now that they're into, $2.50, $2.40. You could get Drake Baldwin at $7 or $8 a few weeks ago, and now I think he is going to win. And I think that for a couple of reasons, not just because he's favorite. Part of the reason for that is the Braves, they moved on Travis d'Arnaud, right? They had the best catching sort of platoon in baseball when they had d'Arnaud and Murphy. They let d'Arnaud go because they wanted to give Baldwin as many games as they could. They've had some injury issues and concerns that have sort of let Sean Murphy play a lot of DH, and Baldwin is just getting all the reps he can handle. The pitching is where it gets really interesting. I'm going to call him Mike Wazowski, the Brewers starter who's sort of in that second favorite spot at $2.50, effectively a 2-horse race. He was $1.40 after his first 2 starts. He got roughed up real bad against the Mets yesterday, lost favoritism. If he can go from $1.50 to $2.50 in one start, he can go from $2.50 to $8 with another bad start. So there's too much volatility, I think, to be playing there. I think if I had to pick someone at value, I'm going to pick Chase Burns, the Reds rookie who was absolutely destroyed against the Red Sox a couple of days ago. But his first start against the Yankees, he was terrific. He had 8 strikeouts. It was one of the plays I put up on Twitter, actually, on his debut. He's the second top prospect in all of baseball, so obviously the top prospect in the Red system and the best pitching prospect. It's very clear if you go back and look at the Red Sox start 2 days ago that he was tipping pitches. His glove position was completely different when he was setting up for fastball or slider. Duran struck out against him or something like that, and then goes and whispers to the guy in the on-deck circle, and after that, everyone is on it. Like Trevor Story, who has more strikeouts than anyone, was spitting on pitches in the dirt. Christian Campbell, who hasn't walked anywhere for years, took a full count walk. It was 100% tipping, which tells me it's a really easy fix. And we're at the halfway point of the season. If he stays in that Reds rotation the rest of the way, he's going to get 15 or 16 more starts, which is probably going to put him right in line with the Brewers rookie Misiorowski. But I think he's got better stuff, and he can ultimately put this one poor start behind him. You're getting what, $21 about it? I think that's a way I could play with a little bit of comfort.
I agree. And I think you just got to look at some consistency. And I think he has a good path that if he's just consistent, he might win this, consistently productive. So I think that's a great value. The other one, though, that I'd like to flag is, in the name of consistency, is Hyesung Kim, who has only played 39 games this year. But since his call up to the Dodgers, he's hitting .368 with an OPS of .932. He's got 12 RBIs now. He has played at an exceptionally high level in Korea for 8 years before this, right? He's used to the rigors of a long season and has been consistent during that time. So is 368 sustainable? No, but his odds are shortening, and that's why he's down to 11s right now. And if he keeps having a big week like he had last week, I think you're going to see Kim maybe be the favorite in a couple weeks from now. I think he's one of those Zach Wheeler scenarios where you're just like, all right, he's trending up. Maybe his stock's rising. Now's the time to jump on board at 11 for Kim.
I think he needs a bigger role. He's got 87 ABs right now. Drake Baldwin has 165, so nearly double.
But he's only played 39 games.
Yeah, but he's kind of been up that whole time. He's just not an everyday player. So I think you'd need. He can play anywhere. I've seen he plays outfield. He's that true utility guy, right? An injury or two to a Dodgers starter gives him that role, and that's where I think you get that pathway, like you're talking. Because if he's an everyday player, he should be the favorite. The problem is he's already behind 100 ABs on Drake Baldwin. Look, this is a weak market for sure, so it's not going to take a lot to get there. But if we're talking about this in a second half of the season, he has just as much a role. Drake Baldwin's had more ABs now than he'll have in a whole year. So, yeah, what does that look like? Do they start giving some off days to some of their guys? Like, does Kike Hernandez no longer become the true utility guy? It becomes Kim because he's a great base runner too, right? Like, I think he's stolen. Like, I've watched a fair bit of. Yeah, he's stolen 8 bases in however many games he's played. He's had 94 plate appearances. He's stolen 8 bases. Like, that's. If you extrapolate that out over a season, he's like a 40 base a season guy, which is top level speed. He just needs to get that role.
There's a pathway there. There's still half the season to go, and it's a wide open market. So I always love these discussions, even just as a fan. Like, take the betting out of it. Like, just who's the dark horses out of the guys that bookmakers are telling us are going to win. So hopefully that discussion was helpful. That's the long-term play, though. We'll have those settled on October 2nd. This weekend, I've only got one play for you for the weekend pickoff. I'll just start because it's right there, and it helps me mention also the fact that the Toronto Blue Jays are in first place in the AL East. They just swept the New York Yankees. That is something worth celebrating. I would not have picked that, to be totally honest. Like a 4-game sweep versus the Yankees, who are that good. Like, I'm glad I wasn't avalanching.
Yeah, if we had a Monday show together, would you have avalanched there? Like, you've done it against the Jays 2 or 3 times. It's not like you're immune to a bit of friendly fire.
Would I consider avalanching the Blue Jays? Yes. I wouldn't have done it on that play because I always like to avalanche teams that are on a streak, right? Like, the Jays started a streak. Teams are going to get hot. They're going to win 4 or 5 in a row. The Pittsburgh Pirates have won 6 in a row, right? Like, teams get hot. But would I avalanche the Jays? I'm going to ask you a question right now. Who do you think I'm avalanching against this weekend? The Toronto Blue Jays, baby. They're red hot. They've won 4 in a row. They're riding high. They've got some momentum. They are playing a team at home versus the LA Angels. Now, this is a risky avalanche because the Jays are piping hot. But I don't see the Jays winning 7 in a row. And continuing this. I just think they're just going to drop a game somewhere. They've kind of won sloppy and given up some runs in, like, their offense has carried them the last couple of games, right? Like, they've given up runs in bunches and kind of held on for late. Now, the reason I also like this is I think the Jays win the series. I think the Angels will win a game, but the Angels have already beat the Jays this year. They've been kind of mismatched in the past for whatever strange reason. The Angels are good or they're bad. They're somewhere in between. But you're going to get the Angels pretty much all weekend, I think, around the 240 mark. I've already had some profits from the Avalanches. I'm up a good number of units from it. The risk right now is that it's a 7 risk loss and the Jays sweep throughout that. And there go my profits from the year. But I'm still up on the whole on the Avalanche plays. I'm willing to get a bit dicey and play with a team that you're going to get over $2 odds all weekend long on the road with the Angels. So I'm saying bet the Angels Friday, double down Saturday, and do it again Sunday, and hope you got money in the bank on Monday.
And worst case scenario, your team's 7 games straight and 2 games clear in the AL East, so you can kind of wipe your tears away with a bit of emotional success too, which always helps.
The other one that I'm going to keep an eye on, I'm not going to say Avalanche, but I am going to watch this series. The Guardians have lost 7 in a row, and they play Detroit at home. I think I will be monitoring this situation. If the Guardians lose on Friday, I might consider just putting a bet down on Saturday saying the Guardians snap that streak and then double down on Sunday. I just don't like the value that it's just going to be too short to really do a 3-game play. So my side bet will be, Yeah, Guardians, if they lose on Friday night, I'll jump on them to break an 8-game losing streak on Saturday versus Detroit at home.
I thought you were going to go the other way with Avalanches there. Just quickly touching on how bad the Yankees have been of late. They obviously head to the Mets for that Subway Series that Rolsey will be attending. You can get the Yankees at $1.90 tomorrow. I kind of thought you might be thinking there's no way they keep losing in such a big series. You know, the Yankees always get up for the Subway Series. Like your Stantons, your Judges are going to kind of have those big moments. If you're getting $1.90 about the Yankees all weekend, that might be one to look at as well.
Yeah, that might be one to watch if they lose on Friday and Saturday. You say they avoid this sweep because there's no way they get swept twice versus 2 rivals in a row. So that's one you're like, if they lose game 1 and 2, you might even put 2 units on the game just for fun on the Sunday. Yeah,
well, Stroman makes his season debut tomorrow, so you probably want to stay away from that because that could be anything. But yeah, you're right. As that gets more and more likely, you kind of pick it up down the line.
So keep an eye on those Avalanche and the teams on streaks. So I'm watching streaks of the Guardians and the Yankees and jumping on them later in the weekend if they lose on Friday night. And I am absolutely avalanching from game 1, the LA Angels. It's so Toronto to be riding this high. You sweep the Yankees, play on Friday night at home and lose. That's just what they do. So they're still the Blue Jays, remember.
I love it. I've got 2. One tomorrow is against the grain of how I usually play. And last time I played this way, I got burned badly because I took on Screwball and his unders against Rolsey's Cardinals. And I think he had all of his strikeouts that killed me were backwards Ks, and the guys were just frozen. I was like, this Tariq guy might be pretty good. And
pretty good.
Hunter Brown's a little bit of trouble too. The way I'm going to take a picture on tomorrow is just looking at some of the strikeout lines earlier. Spencer Strider's line is 7.5 against the Orioles. This is a guy who's coming back from injury, and we just spoke about a little bit before. The Braves are in a world of hurt as far as pitching injuries. You know, Chris Sale maybe comes back by the end of the year. Smith Shawver doesn't. Schwellenbach's kind of a few weeks away. Strider's the only starter left at the moment, and he's coming back from Tommy John himself. 7.5, look, when he's on, he's unbelievable. He's got a 13 strikeout game already this year. Admittedly, that was against the Rockies, and he's got a couple of 8s that were both against the Mets. That's 3 starts out of 9 where he's managed to get 8. And look, I know the Orioles are sort of struggling a lot, but there is no reason for the Braves to be letting Strider go out there and really push himself. He hasn't crossed the 100 pitch mark all year. And typically to kind of clear a 7.5 strikeout line, you'd want to be seeing 90 to 100 pitches. So I'm going to take the under on Spencer Strider's strikeouts tomorrow at $2.20, knowing that he could just strike out the top 3 guys in 15 pitches, and then I've got a long watch ahead of me, hoping that some guys figure out how to foul off that 99 fastball. But I think a lot has to go right to kind of get those A+. And look, I'm going to say this for the 15th time, and it's going to be at the end of the year when we do our review, we're going to have the hills that we die on. One of my hills that I'm dying on this year is that the Orioles are still too bad to be true. And at any given moment, they could look like the team that made the playoffs last year, right? So if I've got that in the back of my mind, I've got all the issues around the Braves, and they're going to be more mindful of protecting their young ace rather than pushing him to win a meaningless game ahead of the All-Star break. Give me under 7.5 strikeouts for Strider at $2.20.
I like it.
And then on Sunday, the way I wanted to play this game was, it's probably going to be the game to watch, right? It's Astros at Dodgers, and it's Ohtani on the mound to start. What that looks like yet, we still don't know. You're going to get Dodgers at favorites 100%. They're at home, and it's Ohtani, even though he's giving you 1 or 2 kind of innings. Just given the pricing we've seen on his couple of opening outings so far, I think there could be $1.60. Which means you're getting $2.40 potentially about a Framber Valdez-led Astros who's got a 2.72 ERA, and they've got 52 wins, and they're one of the best teams in the American League. I think that the Astros love nothing more than to play spoiler against the Dodgers. Altuve is going to be getting booed relentlessly every AB, and then he's going to hit one into the second deck. They've got those guys we're talking about, like Cam Smith, who's kind of contributing. Don't forget my former first baseman, Christian Walker, what he does at Dodger Stadium. His numbers, he is Barry Bonds at Dodger Stadium. He's going to go in there and feel like he's back at home. If I'm getting anything above $2 for the Astros to play spoiler in an Ohtani start, I'm pretty keen to take that. And I think there's a chance it could be 230, 240 with Framber Valdez on the mound, which you will not see for the rest of the year.
I love that. So you're going in the Ohtani start, you're going against it. It's kind of like our play with the Mets a few weeks ago when they were just paying threes, and then they didn't win game one, but they were, again, incredibly, like, they were crazy underdogs, not threes the next game. And that's when they won. And we made some over double money on an Avalanche because we put 1 unit on them one, and the next day they were like 270. We had 2 units on it. And all of a sudden you've bet 3 units and you've made almost 3 units back. There's your Avalanche margin you need for this weekend with the Angels. So, yeah, I actually really like that play a lot. That's a good one. I hadn't really looked at the pitching matchups of Ohtani, and that's probably one going forward you can flag, being like, all right, Ohtani's always going to be a favorite, and he should be a favorite. He's a favorite for a reason. But people generally like to line up their aces to go against Ohtani. Like, Paul Skeens is the best pitcher in baseball, in the NL, according to the betting markets, but he loses a lot of games. Now, the Pirates are different than the Dodgers, but the point is that great pitchers get beat, right? Like, you're just one guy.
Yeah, and I mean, like, don't get me wrong, if he was fully stretched out and this was his 17th start of the year and he was a chance to go 7 or 8 innings, it's probably a different story. But 1 to 2 innings of Ohtani is a completely different factor. And then you're handing it over to a bullpen who's seen more different arms come in this year than any team in baseball, with mixed results. And they've often relied on their offense to bail them out of those situations. Framber Valdez, and, we talked about how good the Astros bullpen is with Brian Abreu in the 8th and Josh Hader in the 9th. They give up like 1 run every month or something like that. If you're getting 6 or 7 from Valdez, 1 from Abreu, 1 from Hader, there's not a lot of wiggle room there for your pitching, which is going to need to cover 6, 7, maybe 8 innings behind Ohtani. So if I'm getting $2.40, which I think I might, given that the Astros are $2.45 in tomorrow's game, I think that's a pretty good way to play.
There's some good short-term and long-term forecasts for you. I had fun breaking down those MVP and award candidates with you, Spoon. Hopefully you have a good weekend. What's on for you this weekend?
Quiet weekend, actually. Passed up the opportunity to head up to one of my House of Horrors, the Gabatoir, as it's sort of affectionately known amongst Port fans. So I think I'll watch that one from the comfort of my home tomorrow as we lose by 45 or 50. Although it will tell me how real the curse is, because if Port win without me in attendance like I've been for the last 5 wins, then I just know I need to cancel that passport and never travel again for my team. Other than that, I'll be out there tomorrow morning playing some very average right field, batting 10th. Trying to foul off a pitch so I'd strike out on 4 or 5 instead of 3, and then taking it easy the rest of the weekend. How about yourself?
Ice hockey, baby. It's ice hockey weekend. 2 games at the Ice Arena, so I'll be calling those games. Spoon, have a good weekend. Happy 4th of July to all our American baseball friends listening. That will do it for us on the X-Pots today, and we'll catch you on Monday.